first down. They hand off to Marlon Mack. Huge hole, 50-yard line. He's at the 40, still going near sideline. He's at the 10. He's at the 5, and he will score. Touchdown, Marlon Mack. Touchdown, INDY. And again, it's picked off. It's Darius Leonard. Leonard with his second INT, and he's streaking down the near sideline. He's at the 40. He's at the 30. He's at the 20. He's going to go. A pick six for the Maniac.
Horseshoe is back, baby. The horseshoe is back.
What is going on, Colts Nation, and welcome back to another episode of the Bring the Juice Colts podcast. The Indianapolis Colts head into their bye at 4-2. Right now, there's been some ups, there's been some downs, there's been some really good moments, there's been some very frustrating moments as a fan and just overall for this team. And so I wanted to bring on my friend Kevin Bowen, friend of the show, to kind of discuss the Indianapolis Colts through their first 6 weeks, now heading into their bye, trying to get healed up for when they face the Lions in a couple weeks. Kevin, how you doing, man?
Doing good, Cody. Thanks for having me on, man. Always enjoy it.
Absolutely. Well, Kevin, I guess we can just kind of run through the Colts through 6 weeks, kind of their stats so far, and then we can kind of dive into each position group as well. So right now, the Indianapolis Colts have 128 first downs, 36 of them rushing, 78 of them passing. So, I mean, at least we can say, maybe this is more of a credit to their defense than their offense, that this Indianapolis Colts team right now is in the positive in a very good way in that department, especially because we know, we'll get to in a minute, just the struggles on third down so far throughout the season. What's your overall impression just been of, first off, the Colts getting first downs and then them preventing their opponents from getting first downs?
Yeah, from an offensive standpoint, moving the ball really hasn't been an issue all year long. It's just been the inability to finish off those drives, which we certainly saw them flip the script in that area on Sunday against the Bengals, just outstanding in the red zone. But, if you're going to tell me the run game was going to be, 31st ranked in the NFL right now from a yards per carry standpoint, I wouldn't have expected them to be able to move it as well as they have, and then also toss in, some personnel issues and production issues from T.Y. Hilton in the first 6 weeks. And then on the flip side, just a really nice step forward defensively. You haven't played a single top 15 offense, so, that is something to definitely note. But still, you've gotten off the field at a pretty high rate, been good situationally, and forced a lot of turnovers. Mm-hmm. So I do think there's a lot of better from this defense. And, yes, there's been some leakage here in the last couple of weeks. But for the most part, when you faced, these middle tier to bottom tier quarterbacks that you've played so far, you haven't had the career days. Obviously Gardner did what he did week one, but that's really been it. So I think that's been a positive step in the right direction for that side of the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. That has been something that, we were just so frustrated about in recent years. You just why are you making this quarterback look like an all-pro quarterback? And fortunately, for the most part, the Colts have done a pretty good job so far, I think, overall. But, this is a big thing that we've talked about. The Colts obviously were a lot better against the Bengals yesterday. Third down conversions. The Indianapolis Colts right now are 29 of 74 on third down conversions, a far cry from what Frank Reich and this Colts offense have been used to. And then on the defensive side, they're actually pretty good at stopping on third down, 32 of 79. So pretty solid there. But then what has been the problem with the Colts getting third down conversions? It's been a problem all year. What has been that problem?
Yeah, finally flipped it again on Sunday. But yeah, that's been the biggest, non-red zone division, throw it in the situational category. It's been the biggest issue offensively. I would start with, again, the inability to run the football efficiently. Think about early on in the year, just the poor job they did in short yardage, really struggled in getting some of those, 3rd and 1s to 2s to 3s. And that's something that this team is built to get, and it prides itself on being a better short yardage team. I also think you've had struggles in creating separation. And then certainly Phillip Rivers hasn't been as accurate or wasn't as accurate on third downs. Now, again, you were able to change that on Sunday and really hit on several 3rd and longs too, 9s and 10s that were big conversions for you. So I just think in general, you can point to a little bit of every personnel grouping up front. I don't think the Colts have been an awful team on first or second down. It's not like they're getting way behind the chains, but I just think that their skill guys haven't given them enough, from a separation standpoint. Again, when you're in the short yardage, you have struggled in just establishing a line of scrimmage. Much better situationally, 7 of 11, I think it was, final count against the Bengals. And that's got to be, again, that recipe to, like we talked about earlier, you're moving it okay. It's just the whole touchdowns and too many turnovers that we saw mainly through the first 5 got to change.
Yeah, and, moving on kind of to the passing attack now. So the Indianapolis Colts actually, in terms of yards per game, are pretty good. They're top 10 right now, averaging a little over 265 yards, passing yards per game. But I think, the efficiency obviously has been there. And the touchdown to interception ratio hasn't been great. I mean, coming into that game, Phillip Rivers had more interceptions than he did touchdowns. Now, with the 3-to-1 ratio after the Bengals game, he kind of flipped the script a little bit there. But overall, what has been your impression of this Colts passing attack?
Yeah, you would like, I think, definitely a little bit more consistency, I would say, overall. I mean, from a big play standpoint, it hasn't been, as bad as I think a lot of people would label it as. Again, on Sunday, and this is a bit recent, but, you hit the 7 chunks over 20 yards. I want to say you're still top half of the league in explosive pass plays. But when you struggle situationally, there still is not enough of guys getting open, guys winning 50-50 opportunities. And then, conversely, obviously Rivers has had his ups and downs, and there's been good and bad with his risk taking with that. Personnel-wise, the Campbell injury, really unfortunate. Losing Pittman for a few weeks, losing Trey Burton for a few weeks. That hurts you. And I would just say general disappointment in T.Y. Hilton and even a little bit of Jack Doyle right now early in the season. Hilton probably more so, considering the drops and just the lack of production that he's given you. So that has got to change. I thought the O-line did a great job in pass protection. And really, they've been pretty darn good in pass protection this season. But I thought they were really good on Sunday as you made that comeback. But, it just seems like for another year, you're having an underwhelming performance out of your wideout group, and, Hilton topping that list.
Yeah, and you mentioned the offensive line, only 5 sacks allowed so far through 6 games. That's obviously phenomenal. Let's stay with some of these receivers. So obviously right now it's kind of telling. Nyheim Hines is your leading receiver with 23 catches for 146 yards. Man, it's been so weird. You mentioned some of those injuries to Paris Campbell, Michael Pittman, having guys in and out of lineup, Trey Burton, Jack Doyle for a game, Alley Cox. Like, it seems like every single week somebody's injured or somebody's coming back. So what have you made of this receiving core, whether that be, we'll throw Nyheim Hines in there as well. Wide receivers, tight ends, the Colts obviously are now a little bit more healthy at the tight end position. What has your overall impression been through 6 weeks of this skill position group in terms of pass catchers?
Yeah, I've been disappointed overall. Again, I talked about some of the injuries, and they are unfortunate in their own rights, but you expected more and you need more because Phillip Rivers, in coming over from the Chargers, certainly there were things that the Colts could provide him on paper that you would think was better than what he had at the Chargers. But from a pass catching standpoint, you didn't have better wideouts or, even that number 1 tight end that could help him out and, win more of the 50-50 routes and win more of the 50-50 balls and things like that. So I think that was something that definitely, was different and you were worried about and concerned about. And I don't think that group has necessarily lived up to it. And as you look towards the off season and think about Hilton in a contract year and Trey Burton on a 1-year deal and, things like that. That has been disappointing to me of you haven't really stabilized that group and, your young wideouts, really injury related, haven't been able to prove themselves and deliver for you. I mean, when you're at week 6 of the season and Marcus Johnson and DeMichael Harris are contributing as much as they did, great work by them on Sunday. They should be commended for that. But the Colts just didn't want to be in this situation this early in the year. So, overall, I think I've been disappointed with the pass catching group.
Yeah, but out of those disappointments, there's always guys that impress you. Who are some of those guys that have maybe surprisingly or maybe not surprisingly kind of impressed you through 6 weeks?
Well, start with Johnson. That, just the amount of a route tree he provided this team on Sunday. I thought was notable. Again, not just the big plays. He did a little bit of everything, even underneath for you. And, finally getting a 100-yard wideout this season. And DeMichael Harris is an undrafted free agent. Who would have thought at this point of the season of the young wideouts, it's not Patman, it's not Fountain, it's Harris that has made the most impact, non-Michael Pittman division. And then I like what Trey Burton has brought a couple weeks of playing. You can see him get open. He is a red zone weapon. He's a versatile guy as well. Got to stay healthy, but I think if he can stay healthy, he can be that consistent, critical situation guy for you. We saw Rivers turn to him on a big third down late in that game as well. I know he got a little bit banged up, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. And then Alley Cox, probably another name I throw in there. I like to see him more involved. Hopefully get him back in the lineup, pretty quickly. But he is a young guy that you feel like, okay, he's showing that there's a potential building block there moving forward.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned DeMichael Harris, and I kind of had this thought yesterday, and I kind of wanted to run it by you too. Obviously Paris Campbell, we noticed there's a notable difference from week 1 all the way now through week 6 of, just you've lacked that explosive player like a Paris Campbell. Do you think potentially DeMichael Harris, maybe in a smaller role, obviously he's an undrafted free agent for a reason. Do you think he could potentially help you out in that department, getting more of an explosive type of receiver? Because you have all these possession type receivers, but you don't really have that home run hitter right now in terms of your wide receivers. Do you think potentially he could be a guy that could kind of change up your offense and maybe give it a little bit more of a spark moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good point. I wouldn't necessarily call him a home run hitter. I'd almost call him a guy that can, get you a little single and make something out of nothing when it looks pretty bleak underneath. I think his short area quickness is where he can really help you out. Not necessarily maybe vertical over the top speed. I think it's a lot of, okay, you're in the slot, it's man coverage. Can you go win? Can you simply win one-on-one? You saw him touch the ball on a screen yesterday and make something there as well. I think that is missing for this offense as well. And that's where the Campbell injury certainly is a big, big issue for this football team right now. And, even Ashton Doolin, maybe hasn't emerged outside of the special teams role that he has week in and week out. So, Harris flashed during camp. I know the Colts are trying to keep that pretty hush-hush, but I thought he was somebody that could get on the practice squad and potentially make an impact at some point, and it's taken some injuries and whatnot. But I was intrigued by what I saw yesterday and wouldn't mind to see him in the slot a little bit more moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about this Colts running game. Obviously, a far cry from what it was last season. I mean, last season was top 10. This season's bottom half of the league so far. I mean, right now you kind of think about it, the Colts overall are averaging 3.6 yards per carry. And, we said the Colts are pretty good at stopping the run. The Colts are stopping the run at 3.5 yards per carry. So not really much of a difference there from running the football to stopping the run. We say the Colts are a top unit in stopping the run. So that just kind of tells you how bad it's been in running the football. There's been some bright spots, obviously. Jonathan Taylor, I thought he had another pretty decent day. He, in terms of yards per carry, he's been pretty solid throughout the year. But overall, man, you talk about how good this offensive line has been in pass protection. It just has not been pretty, in my opinion, in running the football. What has your take been of this O-line through 6 weeks now running the ball?
Yeah, again, I would say probably the biggest disappointment on the team, honestly, considering how much you have invested into that part of your offense, personnel-wise, scheme-wise, everything. And you need a lot, for that run game to produce, to alleviate some things from Phillip Rivers. Jonathan Taylor, 5 yards per carry yesterday. Really, it was just that one series where he had the back-to-back 39 yards on 2 carries. Besides that, you had 10 carries of very inconsistent run play. And that's been far too often kind of the narrative here, throughout the first 6 weeks of the season. And so, yes, I think from a run blocking standpoint, you've struggled. I don't think your tight ends and wideouts have blocked well enough either when they've been involved in the mix. I don't put it just on the offensive line. Taylor's vision, I still think, can make a stride. You get him an open field, I feel like he's much more confident of a player. It seems like, when he's in between the tackles, he just lacks a little bit of just that decisive cut ability, get upfield, truly see a hole, and, get to that second level where, then his, track speed can kind of show off. So for this team to do anything in the month of January, it's got to become a better run team.
Yeah, it's just been very puzzling after the last, really the second half of 2018, 2019, and now it's just completely night and day different. And, obviously I feel like Marlon Mack's injury, like we knew that was going to be significant, but not this significant. I mean, it's just been crazy to see the drop off in the running attack. So I think you're definitely right. They need to improve in that area a great deal because it's been definitely rough so far. All right, well, let's move over now to the defense. Let's talk about this Colts defense. Right now, they're still a pretty darn good unit. They've had a couple stinkers of first halves the last 2 weeks, but, the second half of both these past 2 weeks, they've allowed a total of 6 points throughout the season. They've allowed 6.5 points in the second half on average. So what has your take been on this defense? Kind of seems like it's a little bit, the last 2 weeks especially, night and day from the first and second halves.
Yeah, I mean, I would say unquestionably an improved unit for sure. I really can't wait to see him in November when you're going to face finally some legit offenses. Like I was saying earlier, you haven't faced the top 15 offense yet this season. So I'm kind of waiting for that, get more of that January test. But still, you're taking the ball away at a high rate. Situationally, you've been really good. It seems like second half adjustments has been a strength as well. Which is key. But, these first halves, these past couple of weeks has been extremely disappointing to see just the amount of points that you've given up, whether it be, again, 24, I guess it was against the Browns, 20 against the Browns and 24 against the Bulls. I mean, that is just an absurdly high number that is not going to be winning football in the month of January. So, again, the emergence of Julian Blackmon at the back end, Kenny Moore continuing to play at a high level. I think you've shown your depth at linebacker. When Leonard gets back and healthy, you'd like to see a few more game-changing plays from him. Buckner has been just about everything you could ask for. We'll see where Kamoko Turi factors in once he gets healthy as well, because I think a consistent pass rush has been missing in some of these starts that you've had these past couple weeks. But I think it's kind of a bit of just kind of an inaccurate grade right now for this defense. Again, I think it's improved. I don't think it's top 5 good, which is probably where they fall in a lot of league rankings right now. I think it's probably more in like the 10-ish range. But again, you're going to get much more of a litmus test here when you face Tennessee a couple times, you face Baltimore, you face Green Bay, and, even when you face Pittsburgh later in the year.
Yeah. You mentioned right now the Indianapolis Colts rank number 1 in terms of opponent passing yards per game, but they allowed 26 points to Joe Burrow and the Bengals, so something has to give there. And I guess I'm curious, and we can talk about this because this definitely factors into this passing attack. How concerned are you about the lack of consistent pressure from these Colts defensive linemen? I mean, Buckner obviously has been as good as advertised, but it seems like for whatever reason, Joe Burrow got destroyed, got beat up, 7 sacks against the Ravens, and then he comes and the Colts get 2 sacks the entire game. How concerned are you about this Colts lack of pass rush outside of Buckner?
Yeah, very. It's always been a thing where Matt Eberflus, mentions, we feel like we can get home with 4, and ideally we would get home with 4, but that just hasn't happened. And, I talked about Toure over here, when he gets healthy, which I think is still a little bit up in the air, that's going to be such a big presence that you need him to be an explosive edge guy off, because I just don't think you have that. Like you said, Buckner is giving you tons of quarterback hits in there. If I nitpick a little bit, I'd like to see a little bit more in the first half of games. Maybe I'm talking about the last 2 weeks. I don't think rush and cover have matched up. But yeah, I mean, again, this is probably one of my bigger worries about this defense right now is just you're pretty committed to, sticking with 4. Yes, they brought a little bit more pressure. Yesterday I saw Xavier Rhodes corner blitz late in the game. So, I mean, they have brought some blitzing, but it's a little bit too late for my liking, and just a little bit too much in, believing in we're going to have, whatever. We're going to have these 4 get home early on in games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I definitely am there with you. I think potentially, and we'll talk about it a little bit, maybe the Colts need to change some snap counts because, some of these younger guys haven't necessarily got as many snap counts as you'd like to see. And hopefully they can get some more moving forward and help you out in the pass rush department. But let's talk about the secondary a little bit. So obviously Xavier Rhodes brought over. He was the big name in the secondary that was brought over this offseason. I've been thoroughly impressed by Xavier Rhodes throughout 6 weeks. So what has your impression been of Xavier Rhodes, TJ Cary, and Rock Houston, and all these corners so far throughout the season?
Yeah, I think Rhodes, I think there was a little bit of volatility with him coming here, and obviously week 1 didn't play very well. But since then, for the most part, he's been really good. And I think you really appreciate him and Rock Houston both contesting more balls. It has not been perfect. Rock's had probably a few more hiccups than Xavier, but still, I just think in general they're getting their hands involved and just a little bit more. It sounds so elementary, but they're just closer in coverage, and that just is so needed for this defense, obviously, to get off the field on a consistent basis. And then Kenny Moore continues to be, I think, just the most solid player in this football team. Just quietly goes about his business and is everywhere around the ball on a weekly basis. Rock, again, a little bit more up and down from him. Safety-wise, Julian Blackman, just his instincts, what he's been able to do, finding the football. And I have to remind myself, I'm like, wait, the ACL was 10 months ago, and he's still doing, we just forget about that. And finishing off that game yesterday, how many times have we seen the Colts defense in that situation and not finished that game? That was a big, I think, step in the right direction as well. So a little bit more playmaking from the secondary, which is key. I'm sure there's been some moments where the rush and cover, I don't think have been in sync, and there's been some issues there. But for the most part, I think you're getting more just activity from that secondary.
Yeah, I'm super encouraged by, what I've seen from these two safeties. I'm really excited for what the future holds for both these guys, for Blackman and obviously Cary Willis, who had a big stop there on, I believe it was 3rd or 4th down. So I'm excited about the secondary as well. And I guess we can talk a little bit about just the depth the Colts have right now. You think about it. They've missed their all-pro linebacker, Darius Leonard, for the last 2 weeks and really haven't missed a whole lot of – really a lot of beat. Like Bobby Okereke, credit him. He should have had 2 picks yesterday. But, all in all, he's played very, very well considering the circumstances, considering the injury he had, the surgery he had. He stepped in and I thought he's performed well. What's your impression, Ben, of Okereke and these Colts linebackers?
Yeah, you certainly see his length, and that's what stands out the most. Him in coverage, you can see why the Colts want him on the field. I thought yesterday Anthony Walker, just a little bit in coverage. You see why they want to go with Okereke and Leonard on the field on those passing downs. And I am glad. I'll go back to the safeties real quick. I'm glad you mentioned Cary Willis. He's probably taken for granted a little bit too much. Just so solid and around the ball. You love his instincts. I will say with Leonard, when he was healthy, again, you want more splash plays. And he set just an insanely high bar for himself with that. But I think that's something where he can take a step forward and just, again, getting back to here's my sacks, here are these turnovers. This is what I'm really for over the course of a 60, 70 game or 70 play sort of game. But yeah, linebacker we thought was probably the best, deepest position on the team. And I think it's, for the most part, lived up to it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's been super, super encouraging to see that happen, despite the fact you're missing like I mentioned, your best player on defense. So super encouraging there, but it also will be good to have him back in a couple of weeks for sure. And then the Colts rushing defense has been phenomenal as well. Say what you want about this defensive line in terms of getting the pass, getting to the passer, but they've been really, really good. This defense overall has been really, really good at stopping the run. Yesterday, they did a really good job, I felt like, on Joe Mixon. Really don't feel like they've been abused by any offense running the football this season. Obviously, they're going to have to play Derrick Henry twice still, who, gosh, that man is so hard to take down. And but right now the Colts sit at number 3 in terms of rush defense at 88, a little over 88 yards per game. And I feel like the last couple weeks, especially the last 3, they've been better against the run than they were early on. So what's your impression been overall of this Colts run defense?
It's funny. It's kind of been a constant in the Matt Eberflus era. They've been a pretty good run defense team. We probably, again, don't give enough credit for that unit for doing that. But this year they've almost, taken it to another level. Grover Stewart deserves a big, big pat on the back for that. Yesterday early on, this team just got steamrolled against the run, but then bowed up and stepped up in the second half with that. Like you said, Cody, I mean, there are the test of all tests coming up with what Tennessee will offer, and certainly even Baltimore I'd throw in there as well, even though it's a different rushing offense. But still, I would say from a consistency, what has showed up every single week over 6 weeks outside of special teams, it's been the run defense.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I've been really encouraged by what they've been able to do. Even if early on some teams have gotten some decent rushes on them, they've stepped up and then they've battened down the hatches and they've really done a good job, I feel like. So super encouraged by that. All right, let's move on. You mentioned the special teams. Let's talk about the special teams unit. I mean, overall, man, I would argue they have the best special teams unit in the league, from punter to kicker to punt return to kick return. All these guys very much impressed me. What is your take, Ben, of this Colts special teams unit so far?
Man, it's hard to argue, with that statement, even though it is a bold statement. I seriously mean, I think Rigoberto Sanchez has played his position better than anyone else on the Colts roster. And again, that's high praise considering what a guy like DeForest Buckner has brought. But I think Sanchez is that good for you so far. And they've controlled field position. Obviously, Hot Rod has made, 90 whatever % of his kicks, a very high number, extra points thrown in there, not to mention field goals. So it's exactly what you want from a kicking game standpoint. Your coverages have been pretty good. You obviously busted the big return, a few weeks, or I guess last week against Cleveland. So yeah, I mean, it's been sound. It's been very solid. It helped you dominate those games in the month of September because you controlled field position so much. So yeah, really, really good work by Bubba Ventrone and that entire unit, really.
Yeah, I've been impressed for sure. All right, well, the last thing I want to talk about, so obviously the Colts aren't going to play this next week. They're going to get some rest. They're going to hopefully get some guys back. Kevin, what are some things you want to see from the Colts? Potentially, maybe some roster moves, maybe some guys getting more playing time, whatever it is. What are some things that you want to see from this Colts team moving forward? Because it's going to be a gauntlet coming up after the bye week.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, certainly, I think just generally from a health standpoint, how much this team could benefit from, Michael Pittman coming back and producing at a high level. Obviously, we saw T. Higgins, what he did yesterday. Colts would love for that to happen. Kamoko Terry on defense, if he can get back at some point, in November and give you that edge, presence that I think will be so needed to really diversify what you have from a pass rush standpoint. Those two stand out to me the most, just individually. As far as playing time, you obviously want to see wideouts emerge. You got to have T.Y. Hilton become a number one presence. Again, I don't think this team is going to do a whole lot of damage in the month of January unless you really, really get that going. You want to see the offensive line take strides in the run game. And then defensively, whatever's happening in these first halves from a rush and cover standpoint, that has to change as well. So, individually, playtime wise, yeah, I mean, you mentioned some of the younger defensive linemen earlier, but, outside of Tyquan Lewis, I'm not sure, Banigou had a couple moments yesterday, but he's been largely quiet, through the first 6 weeks. So I'm not really sure playtime wise what you would see. Alley Cox, when he's healthy, getting more time out there, maybe some up-tempo stuff offensively. So, yeah, I guess those are some of the things that kind of stand out to me.
Okay. Makes sense. Well, yeah, hopefully the Colts listen to you and they start to figure out some of these things because, man, I mean, it's going to be a tough schedule coming up. I mean, so far the Colts have had it pretty easy, quite honestly, with their schedule. I mean, they haven't played really any contenders up to this point. Maybe you could throw Cleveland in there, maybe Chicago. But, overall, compared to the teams they're about to play, I mean, it's been a cakewalk so far. So yeah, you're definitely right. Hopefully they do a lot of self-evaluating. They get some key players back. And that can help them be more competitive down the road. But thanks, Kevin, so much for coming on, man. Really appreciate it. And, yeah, man, you enjoy kind of your week off. It's going to be probably a little bit refreshing for you.
No, definitely I will. Hopefully the weather cooperates a little bit. And I'd say from a professional standpoint, hopefully the news cycle stays quiet. And a week from Monday, the Colts will be back on the practice field against the Lions.
Sweet. Sounds good. Well, thanks so much, man. And thanks for coming on as always, and take care.
Yep. Have a great bye week, Cody.
You too.